Hi there, welcome back. This is Miss Johnson's Read Aloud time with surprise guest from Danny. We're going to be reading from our chapter book. We're reading the one and only Ivan. We're on part 6, so we're going to kind of find out what happens with Ruby and Stella and all that. Yes, Danny has come to join. So let's get started. Here we go. Elephant jokes. Ivan, Bob, I blink. The dawn sky is a smudge of gray and speckled with pink, like a picture drawn from 2 canyons. I can just make out Ruby in the shadows, waving hello with her trunk. Are you awake? Ruby asks. We are now, says Bob. Aunt Stella's still asleep and I don't want to wake her because she said her foot's hurting her. I'm really, Ruby pauses for breath, really bored. Bob opens his eyes. You know what I do when I'm bored. What? Ruby asks eagerly. Bob closes his eyes. I sleep. It's a little early, Ruby, I said. I'm used to getting up early. Ruby wraps her trunk around one of the bars at the door. At my old circus, we were always up when it was still dark, and we had breakfast when we walked in a circle, and then they chained my feet up, and that really hurt. Ruby falls silent. Instantly, Bob is snoring. Ivan, Ruby asks, do you know any jokes? I especially like jokes about elephants. Well, let me see. I heard Back tell one once. I yawn. How can you tell that an elephant has been in the refrigerator? How? By the footprints in the butter. Ruby doesn't react. I sit up on my elbows, trying not to disturb Bob. Get it? What's a refrigerator? Ruby asks. It's a human thing. A cold box at the door. They put food inside. They put food in the door or the food in the box. And is it a big box, Ruby asks, or a little box? I can see that it's going to take a while, so I sit up and all the way. Bob slides off, grumbling. I reach for my pencil and the one I snapped in half with my teeth. Here, I say. I'll draw one for you. In the dim light, it takes me a minute to find a piece of paper Julia gave me. The page is a little damp and it has the spirit of something orange. I think it's from a tangerine. I try my best to make a refrigerator. The broken pencil is not cooperating, but I do what I can. By the time I'm done, the first streaks of morning sun have appeared in flashy cartoon colors. I hold up my picture and Ruby sees. She studies it intently. Her head turns so the one black eye is trained on my drawing. Wow, you made that? Is this the thing you were telling me about before? Art? Here's a little picture of them, which is really cute. Sure, I can draw all kinds of things. I'm especially good at fruit. Could you draw a banana right now? Ruby asks. Absolutely. I turn the paper over and sketch. Wow, Ruby says in an odd voice when I hold up the page. It looks good enough to eat. Ruby makes a happy, lilting sound and an elephant laugh. It's like the song of a bird I recall from long ago, a tiny yellow bird with a voice like dancing water. Strange. I've forgotten all about the bird, how she'd wake me every morning at dawn and I was still curled up safely in my mother's nest. It's a good feeling making Ruby laugh, so I draw another picture and another, along the edges of the paper. An orange, a candy bar, a carrot. What are you two up to? Stella asks, moaning as she tries to move her sore foot. How are you this morning? I ask. I'm just feeling my age, Stella says. I'm fine. Ivan is making me pictures, Ruby says, and he told me a joke. I really like Ivan, Aunt Stella. Stella winks at me. Me too, she says. Ivan, want to hear my favorite joke? Ruby asks. I heard it from Maggie. She was one of the giraffes in my old circus. Sure, I say. It goes like this. Ruby clears her throat. What do elephants have that nothing else has? Trunks, I think, but I don't want to answer because I don't want to ruin Ruby's fun. I don't know, Ruby, I reply. What do elephants have that nothing else has? Baby elephants, Ruby says. Good one, Ruby, I said, watching Stella stroke Ruby's trunk, Ruby's back with her trunk. Good one, Stella said softly. Children. Once I asked Stella if she had ever had any babies. She shook her head. I never had the opportunity. You would have made a great mother, I told her. Thank you, Ivan, Stella said, clearly pleased. I like to think so too. Having young ones is a big responsibility. You have to teach them how to take mud baths, of course, and emphasize the importance of fiber in their diet. She looks away, contemplating. Elephants are excellent at contemplating. I think the hardest part of being a mother, Stella added after a while, while keeping your babies safe from harm, protecting them. the way silverbacks do in the jungle. Exactly, Stella nodded. You would have been good at protecting too, I said confidently. I'm not so sure, Stella said, gazing at the iron bars surrounding her. I'm not so sure at all. The parking lot. Mac and George are chatting while George cleans one of my windows. George, Mac said, frowning, there's something wrong with the parking lot. George sighs. I'll take a look as soon as I'm done with the window. What's the problem? There are cars in it. That's what's wrong. Cars, George. Mac breaks into a grin. I think things are actually starting to pick up a bit. It's got to be the billboard. People see the baby elephant, they just have to stop and spend their hard-earned cash. I hope so, said George. We sure could use the business. Mac's right. I have noticed more visitors coming since he and George added the picture of Ruby to the sign. People crowd around Ruby and Stella's domain, oohing and awing at the sight of such a tiny elephant. I gaze out at the huge sign that makes humans stop and spend their hard-earned cash. I have to admit that the picture of Ruby is rather cute, even if she doesn't look like a real elephant. I wonder if Mac would add a little red hat and a curly tail to the picture of me. Maybe then more visitors would stop by my domain. I could use a few oohs and ahs myself. Ruby's story. Ivan, tell me another joke, please. Ruby begs after the 2 o'clock show. I think I may have run out of jokes, I admit. A story then, Ruby says. Aunt Stella is sleeping and there's nothing to do. I tap my chin, trying to think hard. But when I gaze at the food court skylight, I'm mesmerized by the elephant-colored clouds galloping past. Ruby taps her foot impatiently. I know. I'll tell you a story. A real, live, true one, she says. Good idea, I say. What's it about? It's about me. Ruby lowers her voice. It's about me and how I got into a hole. A big hole. Humans dug it. Bob pricks his ears and joins me at the window. I always enjoy a good digging story, he says. It was a big hole full of water near a village, Ruby said. I don't know why humans made it. Sometimes you need to dig for the sake of digging, Bob reflects. We were looking for food, Ruby says, my family and I. But I wandered off and got lost and went too close to the village. Ruby looks at me, eyes wide. I was so scared when I fell into the hole. Of course you were, I said. I would have been scared too. Me too, Bob admits, and I like holes. The hole was huge. Ruby pokes her trunk between the bars and makes a circle in the air, and guess what? She doesn't wait for an answer. The water was all the way up to my neck, and I was sure I was going to die. I shuddered. What happened then? I asked. I'll tell you what happened, Bob said darkly. They captured her and put her in a box and shipped her off, and here she is, just like they did with Stella. He pauses to scratch his ear. Humans. Rats have bigger hearts. Roaches have kinder souls. Fleas have... No, Bob, Ruby interrupts. You're wrong. The humans helped me. When they saw I was trapped, they grabbed ropes and they made loops around my neck and my tummy. The whole entire village helped me. Helped. Even little kids and grandmas and grandpas. And they all pulled and... Ruby stops. Her lashes are wet and I know she must be remembering the terrible feelings from that day. And they saved me, she finishes in a whisper. Bob blinks. They saved you, he repeats. When I was finally out, everyone cheered, Ruby says. And the children fed me fruit. And then all those humans led me back to my family. It took a whole day to find them. No way, Bob says, still doubtful. It's true, Ruby says, every word. Of course it's true, I say. I've heard rescue stories like this before. It's Stella's voice. She sounds wary. Slowly she makes her way to Ruby. Humans can surprise you sometimes. An unpredictable species. Homo sapiens. Bob still looks unconvinced. But Ruby's here now, he points out. If humans are so well, who did that to her? I send Bob a grumpy look. Sometimes he doesn't know when to keep quiet. Ruby swallows, and I'm afraid she's going to cry. But when she speaks, her voice is strong. Bad humans killed my family, and bad humans sent me here. But that day in the hole, it was humans who saved me. Ruby leans her head on Stella's shoulder. Those humans were good. It doesn't make any sense, Bob says. I just don't understand them. I never will. You're not alone, I say, and I turn my gaze back to the racing gray clouds. A hit. Stella's foot hurts too much for her to do any hard tricks for the 2 o'clock show. Instead, Mac pulls her, limping into the ring where she tracks a circle in the sawdust. Ruby clings to her like a shadow. Ruby's eyes go wide, and when Snickers jumps on Stella's back, it leaps onto her head. At the 4 o'clock show, Stella can only get as far as the entrance of the ring. Ruby refuses to leave her side. At the 7 o'clock show, Stella stays in her domain. When Mac comes for Ruby, Stella whispers something in her ear. Ruby looks at her pleadingly, but after a moment she follows Mac into the ring. Ruby stands alone. The bright lights make her blink. She flaps her ears. She makes her tiny trumpet noises. The humans stop eating their popcorn. They coo, they clap. Ruby's a hit. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. There's little Ruby. Worry. When Julia arrives after the show, she brings 3 thick books, 1 pencil, and something she calls magic markers. Here, Ivan, she says, and then she slides 2 magic markers and a piece of paper into my domain. I like the sundown colors, red and purple, but I don't feel like coloring. I'm worried about Stella. All evening she's been quiet and she hasn't eaten a bit of her dinner. Julia follows my gaze. Where is Stella anyway? She asks. She goes to Stella's gate. Ruby extends her trunk and Julia pets it. Hi, baby, she says. Is Stella all right? Stella is lying on a pile of dirty hay. Her breath is ragged. Dad, Julia calls. Can you come here for a minute? George sets aside his mop. Do you think she's okay, Dad? Julia asks. Look at the way she's breathing. Can we call Mac? I think there's something really wrong. He must know about her. George rubs his chin. He always knows. But a vet costs money, Jules. Please. Julia's eyes are red. Call him, Dad. George gazes at Stella. He puts his hands on his hips and sighs. He calls Mac. I can't hear all of the words, but I can see George's lips tighten in a grim line. Gorilla expressions and human expressions are a lot alike. Max says the vet's coming in the morning if Stella's not any better, he says to Julia. He says he's not going to let her die on him, not after all the money he's put into her. George stroked Julia's hair. She'll be all right. She's a tough girl. Julia sits by Stella's domain until it's time to go home. She doesn't do her homework. She doesn't even draw. All right, so that's the end of part 6 of The One and Only Ivan. I am getting very worried for Stella, so we're gonna pause there, and we'll come back and listen to the next to the next part. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.